Hello one and all, and welcome back to the AOR Split 1 Season 9 Championship with Marco FD. My name is Justin, and joining me today is Joe.
Yes, hi everyone, and we're here, like Justin said, at the Italian Grand Prix. It's the famous Monza circuit, and we've got 27 laps of this track today. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yep, very high-speed circuit, the highest speed circuit, in fact, last time I checked. And lots of long straights, lots of chicanes, and lots of high-speed corners as well. Aside from turn 1, breaking down to a very low speed. Last time out in Spa, it was a very close race between the Mercedes guys. Marco, though, edging out Hamish ever so slightly by the smallest of margins. Last season, it was Alex Gillen who took the win ahead of Onage, with Fat First in third position, who took pole position, but just was not able to convert that into the win. Obviously, it's going to be a real concern looking out for corner cuts and stuff like that. AOR has dropped Monza off of the calendar in previous seasons, so it's going to be very important for people to make sure they're not cutting any sort of corners. Don't want to get your time invalidated or get any penalties or anything like that. But we're going to kick things off with a side-by-side qualifying comparison featuring Onage, of all people, actually, who took that second place finishing position last season here at Monza. So it is going to be Onage that is doing the commentary for the side-by-side qualifying comparison.
Alright, and it's time for a lap around the Temple of Speed. It's time for Monza, the fastest circuit on the whole Formula 1 calendar. On the left hand side we see Marco FD in the Mercedes, and on the right hand side it's Thomas Irish HD in the McLaren. Both drivers are now heading down into turn 1. Pick the right braking spot for the Varianti chicane. Bouncing all over the curves, but pay attention to the exit. That's the most important thing as you head down into the Curva Grande corner, which is flat out. That's why the exit is so important, because you're gonna have to carry all that momentum now down this straight. Coming now to the end of the first sector, Marco FD has had a better exit, and you can see that as well, clearly being ahead now. Once again, pick the right braking spot for another chicane. Make sure you bounce over those curves, but don't do it too much, otherwise you will cut the corner. Make sure you watch the exit. The gravel trap is waiting for you. Marco FD having the slight advantage as he approaches the first Lesmo, not really hugging the apex, but that's a line you can take through there. The second Lesmo then down to third gear and up to fourth straight away. Watch the exit yet again. The gravel trap is waiting for you. Open up the DRS there for this straight. Down to Ascari, very important. And let's see, Marco FD looks quite a way ahead, which he is so indeed. A couple of tenths, I would say. 355 kph, and you slow it down once again, heading into Ascari, left to right, left. Watch the bump in the middle of the corner, get hard on the power on the exit, and then there's another straight here, heading down into Parabolica. Take a little bit of a rest, take a little bit of a break, make sure you get your head ready for this final corner, because it's an important one. Shift down the gears, down to third gear, get off front end to turn in, up to fourth for the best possible exit. Make sure you go right to the white line there on the exit, get as close as possible as you can to there. Thomas Irish HD not bothering to do that. And it's Marco FD who takes pole position with a 122.8.
So it was Marco FD who took pole for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, with Burkov half a second behind the Mercedes driver. Double D and Deshima both took the second row for Williams, with Andre Codrianu in 5th place for Force India. It was Thomas Irish HD who was going to be sharing the third row of the grid, and Klavutsky alongside Granu in 7th and 8th place. With the Ferrari driver of Hervojet in 9th, with DH1806 in 10th. AOR Hamish incurred a penalty, and he'll be starting from 11th. So thanks ever so much for the qualifying comparison from Onage. And without further ado, it's time to go on to the Italian Grand Prix.
Race time for the Italian Grand Prix. It's the Temple of Speed. Marco FD sitting on pole position with the Force India of Burkov not far behind. His teammate, though, well out of the picture in the last position, way down in 11th, is AOR Hamish. It's a pretty long run down to turn 1, and it's a very, very heavy braking zone as well. It's going to be certainly tricky for everybody to keep their noses clean, but hopefully they will do exactly that as we are waiting for the lights to come on now. We've got 4 lights, 5 lights, and they're away. And a nice start from Granu, who already seems to be making ground on Klawitsky, but not so much anymore. Klawitsky straight up into Ridgemix, I assume, as he's gaining some serious ground. He's already taken Thomas Iris HD, and it looks like he's moving up the outside of Andre Kudranu and Dashima. Klawitsky shooting up into 4th position, but no, Dashima takes that position back. Thomas Irish making a move on Andre Kudranu. Hamish is off the track entirely, and now he's off the track entirely once again. Looked like he was going to try and make a move to gain several positions, but ended right back where he started, and with some grass on his tires as well. Not a great start for him. Granu, though, pressuring DH1806 to try and get back up the grid, up the order. And Thomas Irish HD now locking both wheels, going straight off the circuit, and it looks like the McLaren boys here having a little bit of trouble at the start.
Yeah, not a great start for either of the McLaren drivers, as we see Thomas Irish now being passed by Hamish on the outside as he goes into the second Lesmo and takes the position. So a good move from Hamish, who does need to be making up some ground on his teammates if he wants any chance of getting this race victory. But Granu now currently in 8th position, and there's some yellow flags in sector 3. Not sure if that's some kind of glitch, but we're now on board with Marco, who's coming through the Parabolica for the first time and putting it up into Rich Mix to end the first lap of this Grand Prix. He does a 1:27.9 and is 0.5 of a second ahead of Double D. Dashima is a further 1.5 seconds back, with Plavutsky just 4.5 tenths behind Dashima for the final podium position. A great first lap of the Grand Prix for Plavutsky, it has to be said. And well, it's going to be interesting to see whether anyone will be able to catch Marco.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Klawitsky really making up a lot of ground there, and he did it without endangering anybody or him, including himself. So very nice moves from Klawitsky there, as we're back on board with the other Mercedes of Hamish, and he's right behind Andre Kudranu, and there's actually a pretty significant gap up ahead of him. So it looks like Andre might be falling into the clutches of Hamish shortly here, and there's a corner cut warning, which we were talking about earlier in the video. You really have to be very careful about the corner cuts, because those can add up to a 10-second, 20-second, 30-second penalty. You can get just disqualified entirely, so it's very important to watch out for that stuff. No DRS just yet, so Andre Kudranu's got a little bit of an easier job trying to defend from Hamish here as we're going into Ascari. Very high-speed corner. Andre Kudranu a little bit off of the circuit there, and yeah, his line was not super great through Ascari there. Hamish makes quick work of him as they're heading into the final corner of the Parabolica here, and it's looking better for Hamish. Actually, the Force India coming back at him at the inside of the Parabolica now. It looks like he's going to try and make a move, but no, Hamish is able to carry a little bit more speed, and he is going to move up. But now he's got that big gap between himself and Granu, and he's going to have to push really, really hard as Marco sets the fastest lap with a 124.152. A very nice lap on heavy fuel, and we're on board with Thomas Irish, who is bringing up the rear of the grid as it stands right now. And that battle actually between Andre and Hamish still going on, actually. Hamish really doesn't seem to be pulling away in spite of the fact that DRS isn't active yet.
Yeah, well, Thomas Irish, who we're on board with now, is down in last position at the moment and outside of the point scoring positions. So we've got Andre, who's, wow, he looks as if he's locked up there and nearly run into the back of the car ahead, which I do believe is Hamish. Yes, it is still Hamish, who, like you say, has got that big gap in front of him, but Andre looks as if he's struggling in these early stages of the race. I believe it will be a two-stopper for the drivers around here today, if I'm not mistaken, with them probably coming in around lap 7 or 8 for their first stops. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of strategies they do deploy. But Thomas Irish here is just 0.3 of a second behind Andre. And obviously we are on lap 3 of this Grand Prix, so DRS is active now. And the main chance that the drivers are really going to have is down the main straight. The run from the Lesmos down to Ascari can be a bit of a risky position to overtake, but obviously the drivers are going to be looking to get as many moves done as possible, especially further down the field. Where they're going to be needing to make these moves, but both Andre and Thomas Irish do have DRS, but Thomas Irish looks as if his is a little bit more powerful as they're both closing in on Hamish. Andre makes a kamikaze move down the inside and looks as if he did cut the track. And is he going to maybe let Hamish through? Yes, he is. But Thomas Irish in all this is just swept up 2 positions, and he's up to 9th place. As we see a DH1806 there in the Lotus. He was running very wide out of the second chicane, and Granu just says thank you very much. And now we've got Hamish, who locks up again. And this second chicane is proving to be very, very difficult for the drivers today. So maybe it is a sign of times to come. And, you know, just a lot of drivers further down the grid are just desperate to be making up positions. But here, Thomas Irish is up into 9th place after making that double overtake.
Yep, and again, though, a huge gap between the back guys and sort of the middle guys. And actually, we could see on the mini-map that Marco FD pulling away pretty significantly. It looks like Grandu's going to gain another position here on lap 4 as he just goes flying by Herbojep on the run down towards the Parabolica. And it looks like that's going to be a pretty straightforward move for him. But of course, DRS activation, the detection was just at the entrance to the Parabolica, the activation being at the exit of the Parabolica. So Herbojep is going to have DRS, but it does look like he's dropped off a little bit. Interesting to note, when we were on board with Marco, he wasn't even getting into 8th gear. He didn't have DRS, of course, but I think he was going nearly 360 kilometers per hour, and that's a lot of contact between Grandu and Herbojep, and I think they just kind of got stuck on one another, and Grandu has been given a penalty by the game. We'll have to see later on if that sticks or not, and here's a replay of that, and yeah, they got stuck. They just got stuck on one another. I would probably say that's a racing incident. It wasn't really a dive bomb. I think that may have just been F1 2014 physics playing their little games there. But again, Thomas Irish here is going to be the big winner out of all of that. He's now up into 7th from 11th originally, and Grandu slowing down after that second chicane, and he is going to let Herbojep by just as a precaution, or possibly Herbojep had some choice words for him in the radio communications possibly, but Hamish still down in 9th. He's gotten ahead of Herbojep, and I assume Grandu is now bringing up the rear in 11th, since Andre Cadranu is ahead of Hamish again, actually. So Hamish is not making the sort of progress or the sort of gains that I'm expecting, that he's hoping for, as he carried a lot of speed through that second Lesmo there, and ran into the back of Andre, and that just killed his momentum, and now he's going to really struggle to get by down this straight. Yeah, just nowhere near him, of course. Andre picking up that DRS as well from the car ahead. It looks like a Williams, I'm not sure. Herbojep, though, his race is over, so Grandu at least now up into a single points-paying position.
Yeah, everyone looks as if they're going to be scoring points this afternoon now after Herbojep's retirement. Hamish is here as he gets the undercut through the second part of Parabolica. Maybe not the cleanest of moves, he's still actually getting stuck on the grass, but he does nonetheless get the move done no matter how pretty it is. But it looks like Andre is going to come back at him. Yes, he is, even though Andre doesn't even have a DRS.
Wow.
He's just got a much better run out of the Parabolica, and the Force India driver makes the move stick, but Hamish trying to counteract him down the inside as they nearly get stuck on each other's side pods. Whenever that happens on F1 2014, your heart is in your mouth because you know what's going to come. But luckily Hamish seemed to spot the danger, and now skipping on to the end of lap 7, we've got Hamish, who is making up quite a few positions as drivers are peeling into the pit lane. As expected, I said around lap 7 or 8, the drivers are going to be making their first stops of the afternoon. We've got Thomas Irish HD here coming into his McLaren pit box, and they are fitting another set of the option tyres to his car. And I believe that's Andre as well into the pit lane in the Force India garage. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of tyres they're putting on. But anyway, we've got Thomas Irish now coming out of the pit lane in 9th position. And I believe it was only those two drivers that were making their pit stops. As you see Grandu there going through turn 1. So he's quite a long way behind anyone else after his mishaps. But it's not been a great race for either of the McLaren drivers so far. And we see here Marco FD well out in the lead at the moment, ahead of Deshima and Double D. 5 seconds is the gap, but it's the gap between the two Williams drivers that is that's probably the smallest gap in the field right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how that develops as the race goes on.
Yeah, for sure. And if they're feeling pretty generous for one another, they might actually use each other to get DRS off one another and try and close that gap to Marco. But with an over 5-second gap, and we're just starting lap 9 now, that's over half a second a lap faster. But of course, 2 DRS zones, very long, very helpful. So if they can get DRS and kind of trade positions off of each other and really not go side by side with each other, not battle each other, then they could start making headway on Marco possibly. And again, still on lap 9 now. Burkov is defending from DH1806 now, and they're going through the Lesmos, and DH really seems to have the advantage here at the moment, although he is quite low on fuel both of them running pretty wide at the exit of the second Lesmo there, getting their wheels in the gravel there ever so slightly. DRS now open. Burkov's not going to defend the inside line. He thought about it at the last second there, but then realized that DH was already alongside. DH up into 5th position with his teammate Klawutski up the road, but quite a ways up the road. And on lap 11, DH 1806 diving into the pits. And that's an interesting sound. And I wonder what he's going to be putting on, because he made those option tires last a really long time. I mean, 11 laps to go on those option tires, and he's going on to the primes now. It looks to me that DH 1806 might be doing a one-stop, and it wouldn't surprise me if other people are doing a one-stop as well, because obviously we still have people out on track that have yet to pit, so looks like a number is oh wow. And that was very scary stuff there, as Andre as well comes flying in at a very, very high speed, and I believe DH 1806 is going to have to let him through, because he did kind of move over in front of him, but no, it looks like he's gone. Yeah, he dropped way back. So Andre really losing out there. It looked like he was not far behind this battle between Thomas and Burkov, who are going side by side through the chicane. That's very difficult stuff there. And Thomas is going to have to let Burkov through. But now, of course, he's got to worry about DH 1806 behind him. But he does take the position, or hold on to the position, going into the first Lesmo. And we've got our leader, Marco FD, coming into the pits. He's going onto the prime tires after 13 laps, after 12 laps. So he's going to be doing a 15-lap stint on the prime tires, I assume. And there they go with the sub 3.7 second stop, actually. So Mercedes guys drinking a little bit of energy drink or something today. They were able to find a couple of hundredths in the pit lane, and it does look like he is going to lose a position, and that is Hamish, actually, that is continuing on down the road, but of course he hasn't stopped yet.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's a lot of drivers going on this one-stop strategy, or at least going to try and do the one-stopper. It's going to be quite interesting to see whether the two-stoppers will, in fact, make up a lot of time during the final few laps of the Grand Prix, but DH 1806, one of the drivers who is going to look to do that one-stopper, and he seems to be hanging on to the tail of Burkov and Thomas Irish. Now, Andre was the big loser just last lap or the lap before, and it looks as if he just sort of went ploughing into the first turn, and well, we're not really sure what happened, as we haven't got the point of view from him. But here we see DH 1806 going around the outside of Burkov. That was a lovely, lovely move from the Lotus driver, who was biding his time over the past couple of laps, and he has finally got that move done. So he is up into 7th position, and Thomas Irish is next on his list. Will he get DRS? Yes, he will. He must be right on the borderline between the 1 second gap. Because it does look quite a big gap as Burkov gets a run on him. Is he going to make the move around the outside? No, he runs out of road, but DH 1806 nearly goes spinning, but he just about holds position. As here we are now in the pit lane with Hamish, and now Marco will retake the lead of this Grand Prix. And starting lap 14, you can see here Hamish taking a look to see what sort of strategy everybody else is on, and now he is the final driver to have made his stop. And well, that is everybody into the pit lane for the first time, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when we see the two stoppers in the pit lane.
Yep, and actually Thomas Irish is coming down the straight right now with Burkov not that far behind, and there he goes. Of course, we do believe Thomas Irish is going to have to stop again after making that very early pit stop. And Hamish, that is a definite dive bomb on DH 1806 there, and that did not work out for Hamish at all. In fact, that's put him under threat from Burkov, and it looks like Burkov able to carry a little bit more speed through that first chicane, and he is going to move ahead of Hamish. And I'm not sure of Burkov's strategy. I don't think he has to stop again, so I think Hamish is going to have to find a way to pass him on track. He, of course, is within 1 second of him, no doubt about it. And actually, it looks like there might be a gap forming between Burkov and Thomas Irish, so if Hamish is lucky here, then Burkov will not get DRS coming out of this second Lesmo, and he will get DRS, but no, he's missed the apex, and he's gone into the gravel as well, and he went from understeer to oversteer. He did get the DRS, but he's just so far back now, there's absolutely nothing he can do about it. I'm sure he's probably going to miss out on DRS later on in the lap, at the end of the lap, coming out of Parabolica. Lap 20 now, DH 1806 has Hamish, actually, of all people, all over the back of him as they're going on to start lap 21 of 27. DH1806 has been defending the inside lines whenever he comes under attack. You can see he's defending that inside line so aggressively that he's actually in the grass there, and that's his corner, so he is going to take that normal racing line. Very smart from DH1806. Very nice defending from him. And looks like he's gotten a little bit of a better exit as we switch on board with Hamish. Yeah, it does appear that he's gotten a little bit better of an exit. Oh, and Hamish's DRS is broken. That's certainly not going to help him get by whatsoever. I'm not sure if DH1806 was told by his crew or not about the car behind having broken DRS, but DH1806 is a little bit on the back foot. Oh no, as he goes into optimal now. I was going to say he's on -1 laps of fuel, but he is doing some fuel saving now. He's in that lean fuel mixture, and it looks like he is going to be able to make it to the end, as here they come across the DRS activation. Hamish doesn't have DRS, but it doesn't look like it matters as they're going side by side, but here comes DH1806 back towards the end, and I think Hamish must be running some really high downforce in comparison to the other cars, because that's not the first time we've seen somebody just fly by him on the straights. So I think Hamish possibly running a higher downforce setup than the other drivers.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be getting very, very good exits off the corners, or at least the turning into the corners. I mean, you can see here he's closing right up to DH1806 as we come onto the straight, but I wouldn't be surprised, especially seeing as Hamish's DRS is broken, and even though he is in the slipstream, I think DH1806 will just about keep that gap at a constant, and yes, he does. So Hamish obviously running quite high aero this afternoon, but maybe he will regret that if he can't get past the Lotus driver, who does seem to have run a little bit deep into that first and second corner, but he's on the outside of DH now, and are they going to be running side by side through the Curva Grande? No, they're not. DH1806 just once again having enough straight line speed and braking nicely into the second chicane, and they are through there nice and safely. Hamish is going to be cursing himself at the moment because he is going to be so frustrated this afternoon that he's sort of missing an opportunity, I guess, to get past, because there are other drivers further up the road, and here you can see once again he's got to run, but his DRS is back active again, and he is on that DRS down this straight now, and is he going to be able to make the move round the outside, and he's going to maybe try and hold it round there? No, he isn't, is he? Oh my word, is DH1806 just about hold his line. And like I was saying earlier, you know, it's very, very difficult to get a move done down that Ascari straight, just because it's so tight down there. And I think, well, most of the moves in the last 5 laps, if we do see any at all, are going to be made on the pit straight.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you on that one. It's such a high-speed corner comparatively to the first chicane as well, going through Ascari, that it's just so much more difficult. And of course, right after that left, you've got a right and then another left as well, which just makes it that much more difficult. And when you've got somebody like DH1806 who is defending that inside line so aggressively, I mean, you can see he's so far to the right, there's just absolutely no way of getting in there. And just fantastic defending from the Lotus driver here, putting all of his talent to good use here and holding off that Mercedes of Hamish. But of course, there are still about 5 laps remaining, 4.5 laps remaining, but he's locked up and just about corner cut the chicane, but he did not. No corner cut warning there for him. Hamish has the inside line for this Lesmo. DH1806 turns in on him a little bit there. Didn't quite leave enough width. Hamish goes through, and I'm not sure actually who got DRS. I think Hamish might have gotten DRS, but no, DH1806 got the DRS at the activation point just before the second Lesmo, and he is going to, and he just goes flying right by. Made it look incredibly easy. Oh no! Oh, and Hamish loses his entire front wing in the middle of Ascari there. That is very, very unfortunate. Yeah, he is going to be going into the pits. He's going to be throwing on a set of the option tires. He's got 4 laps left to do in this race still. It's a very long pit stop, of course, because of the fact that he had to change that front wing. He's down in 6th place. It looks like he's going to lose another position. And let's see who. Yeah, that is Thomas Irish, who was on that 2-stop strategy, who is now up into 6th position. And Hamish is really running out of time. He does not have much time, and you can see Thomas Irish already coming out of that first chicane, and Hamish just now braking for that first chicane. So here we are, about to start the final lap of the race, and it's been a pretty easy one for Marco here. Not so much for his teammate, though.
Now Marco just seems to have kept everything under control today, and you can see that, just going into the first chicane, switching it into lean fuel, he's hitting every apex. When we've run on board with him, he just seems to be really in that groove. And although it probably was quite a boring race for him today, seeing as he hasn't really had any competition, he's just kept it all together. And now we're in the final lap of this Grand Prix. He's on optimal fuel, so he's got to be sure to actually make it to the end. And Double D is a long, long way back. Double D and Deshima, both in the Williams cars, they seem to have had a pretty decent day themselves, taking away a decent haul of points. 18 points for Double D and 15 points for Deshima, or at least it looks that way at the moment. But we're on board with Hamish now, who is right behind Thomas Irish, and he is on a fresh set of those option tyres. We're on the final lap of the Grand Prix now for him and Thomas Irish, and you can just see how much he gains through those corners. So it really does tell you sort of what a high downforce setup they're running. But anyway, this is Marco FD's time to shine, and he's coming through the final corner, not for the first time this season. He's going to take the victory, and the Italian Grand Prix win goes to the Dutchman. He comes across the line, and wow, he just does it in style, doesn't he? He reverses over the line, and Justin, I'll hand it over to you to talk us through these final couple of corners.
Yep, here comes Hamish on the inside line of the final Lesmo. Thomas Irish, though, carries an incredible amount of speed through there, and it looks like Thomas Irish also got the benefit of the DRS, so this might be the nail in the coffin for Hamish here, as, of course, he's not under threat from Granu, who is quite a ways back. DH1806 is going to come home in fourth. It's a double Williams podium, though. The Williams boys taking second and third. Very impressive stuff from them. Hamish very quick through Ascari, though. Gained lots of time on Thomas Irish. Once again, though, defending that inside line is Thomas Irish, and is he going to be able to carry enough speed through the Parabolica here? Hamish trying to go around the outside. It looks like he's got the job done. It's a very, very short run to the start-finish line. He's in the grass a little bit, but it doesn't matter. He is going to take home that sixth place position after starting from last, and I'm sure he's going to be wondering what could have happened. But here are the final results. Marco FD wins by 7.5 seconds. Not the biggest gap we've seen all season, but certainly not very small either. But again, a double Williams podium, only 2.5 seconds separating Double D and Deshima, who both get a podium. I'm sure they're going to be very happy about that, especially in the Constructors' Championship. DH1806 comes home in fourth, and Burkov in fifth. Klawitsky disconnected, actually. I think we missed out on that. That's really unfortunate, because Klawitsky, of course, had a very nice start to his race. Things were looking very good for him. But his teammate Burkov taking home that fifth place position ahead of Hamish, and Thomas Irish HD not far behind, about 8/10 behind Hamish. Granu had a race to forget, as did Andre as well. Very difficult race indeed. Fastest lap was from Marco FD with 1:23.962, and he very well deserved. Absolutely, he definitely seemed in control, as you mentioned, of that entire race. Didn't really seem to have too many problems. Made the one-stop strategy work to good effect. Thomas Irish HD, I believe, being the highest of the two-stop finishers, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like that may have actually not been the right choice.
Yep, going on to the Drivers' Championship now, and it is still Marco a long way out in the lead, with Klawitsky still holding that second position. So an unfortunate disconnect for him, but it doesn't seem to have had too bad permutations for him. Hamish stays in third place, with Double D is in now fourth position, still in fourth position in the championship, with that 33 points finish for the Williams guys. So good afternoon for them, with Andre in fifth position and Granu down in sixth. DH1806, a pretty decent afternoon for him as well. He is in seventh in the championship, with Thomas Irish HD missing out on a couple of points, but he is in eighth, with Burkov in ninth, Nick No Name in 10th, and then Deshima in 11th. But it's still Mercedes a long way in the lead of this championship. They're on 425 points, with the Lotus team in second place, although they only scored sort of half the points of what they should have done, with only DH1806 finishing for them this afternoon. Williams are in third place in the championship, but well, it's difficult to see whether anybody will be able to catch Mercedes.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to be easy, that's for sure. You can see a lot of parallels between AOR and the real-life F1. But that's going to do it for the Monza race, the Italian Grand Prix. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and thank you, Joe, for joining me as well.
Yep, fantastic, Justin, and great race today. And thanks ever so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.